Well, hello, race fans, friends. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm here with Nico Malali, and we're excited to tell you all about the next round of the Downhill Southeast coming up Memorial Day weekend at Mountain Creek Bike Park. Nico, what's going on, man?
Not too much, Will. It's getting to the time of the season with Downhill Southeast that the races are rapid fire. So we're finished one and we're a couple weeks off and on to the next. So we're it's an exciting time of year.
Yeah, I feel like I just got back from Windrock, and I still have some things that aren't quite unpacked. I mean, that's what'll happen when you're traveling with the whole fam, with the baby who has more stuff than me to get to a race. But we're settled back in and yeah, ready to get fired back up for Mountain Creek. Speaking of Windrock, it was an awesome race, and it was my first time at Windrock since they had the new general store. That's going to take some getting used to for me. That was way too nice. I feel like you could eat barbecue off the floor in there. But how was your weekend there at the Windrock round, Nico?
It was great. I thought the race went super smooth. I know coming into it there was a chance of thunderstorms each day, and it ended up being super dry and dusty. So riders went from not being sure if it was going to rain or not to complaining that it was too dry, which mountain bikers always complain about the conditions, whether they're too wet or too dry or too hot or too cold. And it's just a natural thing that we like to do. But the racing was really exciting. It was really cool that Richie showed up and raced. He was texting me that he was going to try to make it happen. He wasn't sure he could only come Sunday. And I said, dude, come on down. Like, you're going to get more practice runs than you get at a EWS. And everybody would love to see you race on that new bike. So I was stoked that he came out. I was stoked Aaron participated. You know, guys like that, they don't necessarily have to race. It's not always super beneficial for them to race every weekend. Sometimes it could be more beneficial to just go there Monday and ride. But I think for the community, it's everybody loves to see those guys in action. And there's not many sports where you can be an amateur rider and sitting next to the five-time world champion on the shuttle truck, and you're both normal guys. So I think that's something really special about Downhill Southeast, and it's awesome that all those guys are coming out and racing. And then the competition at the front too between Crispy and Dooley was awesome. Yeah, it was a just super exciting race. I thought Windrock always turns out exciting racing.
Yeah, it was a great race to be a part of. Like you said, some of the biggest names in mountain biking were there, and Austin Dooley ended up taking the win for the pro men. We'll have to go back and check the tape from the last podcast, but I think I picked him for the win. Um, we'll double check the tape, but I do know I picked the women's winner because I did tap Shell Peugeot to have a big race because she kind of had a little bit of a lackluster Rock Creek, and she told me she was going to be fired up, and, to have some fun and go fast, and she did that. Took her first win of the Downhill Southeast season so far this year. And I also want to shout out another women's performance, Manny Santamarina, who's not in the pro women's field. She's in the Cat 1 women's field, and she's a young rider. I think she's maybe 15 years old this year, but she put down a time that would have been right behind Santa Logar, would have been third place in pro women. So shout out to Manny, who's from Georgia.
Yeah, she's been crushing it, looking good on the bike and making big improvements.
And if you guys want to see the action from Windrock, you can go to our YouTube channel, Downhill Southeast on YouTube, watch the full episode, and yeah, see what happened. There were some crazy race runs out there. Titus Nicholson was loose as ever, making his return to Downhill Southeast, an incredibly entertaining run. Managed to hold on to it, Nico, although there were certainly moments where it looked like he might not.
Yeah, and I would expect nothing less from Titus. Go check out his Instagram and you'll see some action on there. He's a loose unit. And, he didn't really ease back into it. He was off the bike for 2 months, and first ride back, you can put a run in like that. So,
well, and Asa Vermette had an amazing run. Again, didn't quite land him on the podium here. He ended up in fourth place. His time was at 2:28.8, so he was just over 2 seconds off the time of Aaron Gwynn. But, pulled a breakdancing disco move in his race run. Did a complete front flip, got right back on the bike like nothing happened, and yeah, still put down a fourth place time right in front of Richie Rude.
Yeah, I think, going over the bars and being 3.5 seconds off, he probably would have taken it without that, but you got to get to the finish without crashing. That's part of the game. I was more impressed how quickly he remounted. Like, to do over the bars like that and get back on the bike so fast was like, you can see how athletic someone is. When they're good at riding, they're good at crashing, and they can get back on pretty quick. I was joking with him that I crashed in right around that same spot at the national, and it took me 3 months to get back on the bike, and it's taken him 3 seconds. So it's the youth are made of rubber, I guess.
Yeah, he has a short memory because it wasn't like he got in his head and just kind of shut it down to the end. He still rode hard and it seemed a little bit. He was a little bit surprised at the finish of his time, but everybody else in the finish corral, if you watch the video, he goes, "Oh, I went over the bars," and then I say the time, and they're like, "What? You went over the bars? No way!"
Yeah,
But the video proves it.
yeah. I think when he gets stronger, he'll be able to hang on to those a little better. Like, you could see Richie did the same thing, and he's probably like the strongest dude in the game. So he didn't really shake him, but Asa's gotta put some upper body strength on so he can take those front wheel deflections a little better.
Yeah, well, we know it's coming. And speaking of front wheel deflections on rocks, let's move on to Mountain Creek, our next venue, a place where you're going to hit a lot of rocks with that front wheel. It's going to take a lot of core strength, upper body strength to pound out laps throughout that entire weekend. So let's kind of just start from the beginning on folks getting prepped for this race at Mountain Creek. First bit of news is, if you haven't heard, Downhill Southeast is combining with the Spring National at Mountain Creek. So that'll bring just a few changes to the weekend. Nico, talk a little bit about how combining the National Series with Downhill Southeast will be a little different for Downhill Southeast racers.
Yeah, so we ended up changing the schedule due to Nationals at Rock Creek being the weekend after the original date for the Mountain Creek Downhill Southeast. Being that most of our riders are from the Southeast area, driving up to New Jersey and then back to start practice midweek the following week was not going to be the best timing for that event. So we tried to find an alternative date in the fall, maybe. And there wasn't really anything with what Mountain Creek had and what other races were going on that was going to work out. So the best proposal I had was to combine the national with the Downhill Southeast. And the past 3 years, I think we've timed their national for them as well. So we're familiar with working with those guys. They're super easy to work with. They have a good trail crew, good bike park staff. The challenge with combining the national with this event would be obviously some scheduling conflicts, some category conflicts, and then the UCI will be running the elite men and women's race. So there's just a little bit more oversight from USA Cycling. At our normal Downhill Southeast races, my mom, Carolyn, is a USA Cycling official, and she's the only one from USA Cycling on site. So she's enforcing the rules from the USA Cycling side. And now with a UCI official and 4 other USA Cycling officials, there's just going to be more people on top of the rules. So the main thing I want to say is, like, you got to follow the USA Cycling rules. This is not going to be as lenient as a normal Downhill Southeast is. For example, people want to get their start time or their start order changed. If I've been at the top helping at the past 2 races, and if someone says, "Hey, this guy's faster than me, can we swap positions?" I'm normally cool with it. At a Downhill Southeast, our timing system has no issues with that. It's all the same for us. So all good. But at Mountain Creek, USA Cycling is going to be in charge, and they're pretty strict on stuff like this. So we're not going to be able to make those changes. People who are late for their start, I normally just say, "Yeah, we're going to throw you at the end of the category. Don't worry." I'm pretty lenient on that as well. Like, it's a regional race. It's not a World Cup. So we can be a little bit more lax at a normal race, but it's not going to be up to me. It's going to be up to the official, and they're probably going to tell you to pound sand. So be on time. You're not going to be able to have any leniency with the rules. Licenses are going to be a big thing. So we normally check the licenses at the trailer, and I'm happy to see a screenshot of your license or some proof of it. They're going to be checking it through USA Cycling. So they're going to want to see you pull up the actual license on your phone digitally, or have a physical license in hand, not a screenshot. That license is going to need to be valid before you can take your number plate and get on course. So there's going to be just more checks on that. Um, the UCI category is only for elite men and women, but that's available to anyone that's 17 years or older. So 17, 18, normally the Cat 1 juniors are going to be seated in the same category as the pro men, and then we're going to do the podium separately after the race. The only reason we're doing that is because in the end, the UCI points are going to pay down 5 positions. So first through fifth, there's UCI points available in pro men and pro women. And anybody who's 17 or older is going to be eligible to win those points. So the category needs to be run as one category so that the people competing for points are all have an equal shot. For example, if it thunderstorms, the Cat 1 junior went 45 minutes earlier and has a dry track, maybe he wins the race and gets the points. So because of that, it's a UCI race. They all need to go in order. And then we'll break it out at the end for the podium. It's just a UCI thing. So there's a lot of formalities with this. But the main thing is just like be on time, follow the rules. And I'm not going to be the person to enforce them this time. So I'm just telling you, those guys are going to be a little bit more strict with it. So licenses, registration, and just the normal USA Cycling rule book. Make sure you follow that. Also for practices, like in the past, if the practice time changes and there's a group coming, it's been shuttles the first 3 races, but in a chairlift, there's not much of an excuse for it. The past couple, if there was a shuttle of a practice right as it finished, I let all those guys go and then let the Bs follow them. And if I was in the start enforcing that, or Alvaro was, we can be 2 minutes on either side lenient with that. But just as everything else, USA Cycling is going to be in the gate. And as soon as the second mark of the next practice starts, like, sorry, your practice is over. You're not allowed on the track. So be aware of that stuff, and just it's strict enforcement of rules. So you guys can do it. Just be aware.
Yeah, and it's not going to be really any different than the Tennessee National regarding those rules and expectations. So a
Yeah,
lot
for
of our
sure.
racers were there at Tennessee National, so similar categories with the UCI standards, etc. So yeah, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise for the folks from Downhill Southeast at all.
Yeah, and then with the categories quickly, there are a few disparities. This is a points race for both the National Series and the Downhill Southeast Series. So there's some categories that may not be available in Downhill Southeast, or that there are more categories that normally, for example, you'd be racing in 16 and under Cat 1. And now we have a 14 and under and a 15 and 16, which is what the National Series has. So we're going to do our best on the back end to put you in the position of what you would normally race at a Downhill Southeast and give you points for this race according to your normal category. Of course, there's going to be some issues when the points first come out. So just email us and bear with us, and we're going to try to do our best to get those points corrected. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a headache in the week or so after the race to get everything straightened out, but we're prepared for it, and just bear with us as we get those points figured out. The one thing I would say is, though, if we do have your category and you want to race a different category just because it's a national, I would be more hesitant to correct your points. If your category is available and you're eligible to race it, please race that, so that way you can score points in your normal category.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, I think it's a great addition to the Downhill Southeast series to bring a national round on board. Yeah, just to see where our regular racers stack up, because there'll be a lot of folks at this round, just like there were at the regular Downhill Southeast in Mountain Creek last year. We had some big fields, and we had some different racers that we typically don't see on the series, able to mix it up with our regulars.
I've heard it called the EastWest Shootout because it's a Downhill Southeast and a national. So hopefully we get. I guess all our races have been so far this year. If you look at who's been winning them, we've got two guys from the West Coast that have won the three races. So uh, yeah, it'll be cool that we can. This is the first time we're doing it, so I think it's an exciting event coming up this next weekend.
Yeah, and it is a bummer that our defending Downhill Southeast champ from Mountain Creek last year in the Pro Men won't be in the field, Nico. Obviously, that's you. But I mean, it's a place that you've had great success, and I mean that you've really enjoyed having on the calendar. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because New Jersey's not geographically in the southeast, but there are only so many venues that we can host these events that have the uplift capacity, the parking, and a good enough racetrack for both the Cat ones and the Cat 2 3s. So Mountain Creek was a it checked all the boxes. It's an awesome spot. It's just a couple hours into the Northeast. But you know, the idea was to put on a great race series that has good good venues and good tracks, and it suits that for us. Personally, I grew up riding there. I'm from Eastern Pennsylvania, and that was the closest bike park when I was growing up. And I used to go there and ride 30 runs a day with my buddies when I was 15 until my bike fell apart and then my dad would come pick me up. So I spent a lot of time at Mountain Creek. I know a lot of the people that run the bike park. They're awesome to work with. And it's just a win-win to go there. I know it's far for a lot of the guys in the core Southeast region, but hopefully combining it with a national makes that a little bit more bearable to not have two events for people who are really serious. They can go there and check both off in one weekend. And anybody that I asked last year, just getting some data like, hey, what was your favorite event? Mountain Creek was the most common response. And I'll grant it, most of that's from kids who their parents drove them there. They didn't go themselves. But when they got there, there's a super fun jump trail. There's I think 40 trails. The lift is takes 6 minutes to get to the top. There's just a lot of fun things to do there. So anybody that went there for the first time had an amazing weekend. And I think once you can swallow the drive to get there, it's going to be a great experience.
Totally agree. And we've actually got a lot of folks from the Northeast and Mid Atlantic that have done races early in the Downhill Southeast season. So now we're kind of coming to their home turf. I'm looking at the pro men's point standings. Lucas Dodora, Dylan Conti. Who else is popping out to me? Cooper Pleva, Tyler Zanoni. So, yeah, it's a round that brings it to their home turf. And so I'm sure they'll be ready to throw down and represent.
For sure. And when people mention that it's a far drive, all those guys come down every weekend. So it's nice to give something back to them. And I think we'll see people that maybe race more Eastern States Cups or race in the Northeast more often that can't make it down to the Southeast for every race that'll be participating in this one. So it'll be a little bit different crowd. And I think it's cool to expand Downhill Southeast that way.
For sure. I had a blast at the round last year, and there are a couple unique things about Mountain Creek. If you did not make it up last year and you're coming to the race this year, Nico, let's talk a little bit about registration for Downhill Southeast and then lift tickets as well at Mountain Creek.
Yep. So registration for actually the next three races, we're switching to Bike Reg. Elliot built the Go Reggie platforms pretty much with our feedback specifically for us. And at this point, it needed a few updates. We were having some just little issues with the platform that would have helped a lot to update for the last three races. And Elliot was really afraid while people were already signed up, and as we're using it every 2 or 3 weeks, to make those changes. And if something went wrong, we would have a hard time without, like, Elliot's the only guy from Go Reggie. Bike Reg has a team of people and support. So his advice was like, hey, can we just switch everything to Bike Reg? Last three races, I'll fix everything for next year, and that way we're not taking any risk. So Bike Reg is proven. It works super well. I enjoy using Bike Reg from the back end. So we migrated everything to Bike Reg for the next three races. Those links are on the Downhill Southeast website. So you go on and sign up there. The normal cutoffs, we're already past the early reg $10 off discount, and we're in the last week of registration. So Tuesday at midnight, registration closes, and yeah, once you're signed up, we'll have the Downhill Southeast trailer parked up near the finish line, where it was last year at Mountain Creek, and riders can just come up there. They will then get their number plate and sign a waiver. The waiver for Mountain Creek is digital, so you scan a QR code that we'll have there with your phone, and then you fill out your waiver. Everybody needs to do this for the bike park anytime they ride there. Um, Rules, like I said with USA Cycling, but just in general in the Northeast are a lot more strict than they are in the Southeast. I can say this living in both places. So you gotta fill out all the paperwork on their app, which is a bit of a pain to scan, go through with your phone. Like last year, I created an account the year before and then forgot my password, so I had to create a new account with a different email. And anyway, just bear with us. It'll take you 5-10 minutes to fill that out once you pick up your number plate. And then you'll take that code down to the Mountain Creek Bike Shop. It's only a minute walk away from where we'll have the trailer parked. They'll give you your 3-day lift ticket for the weekend that covers Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you'll also get something to walk the track on Thursday if you'd like to. If you want a free ride Thursday, you're going to need to buy your own bike park pass, as well as Monday on Memorial Day. The bike park's open as well, but that ride lift ticket is not included in the race entry. So yeah, registration shouldn't be too much different than normal. We'll just have somebody from USA Cycling there as well that's scrutinizing the licenses a little more than, not that we check them, but they're going to actually need to see that license and punch the number into their system, bring up on their computer the proof that that license is valid. And then the same for 1 days. You can buy one on Bike Reg at checkout, and you can also get one on site. So if anybody had trouble with that, or they already registered on Go Reggie before we switched to Bike Reg, just come and we'll sell you your 1-day license at registration.
So you've pre-registered, you made the drive, you've got your lift tickets, you're kind of ready to get the weekend going. Tell us a little bit about pits set up, kind of the parking situation, and any like camping or anything that you can do in the general vicinity of Mountain Creek.
Sure. So if you've never been to Mountain Creek before, the ski resort is on one side of the highway, and the parking lot for the bike park and the water park and ski mountain and everything is on the other side of the highway. And there's a big bridge that goes and connects the two. So general parking for everyone will be on the other side of the road. Pit space is going to be available for people to book. It's on Bike Reg where registration is. The spots are a little more expensive than what we did at Rock Creek because it's a national race. They're $150 for a 20 by 20. If you need more space, book 2 of them, and we'll make sure you're set up right next to each other. Someone from Mountain Creek Bike Park will be in charge of marking and enforcing the pits. The one thing I'll say is this is a brand new asphalt parking lot that they've spent over $1 million to pave. So don't put any concrete anchors in it. Don't drill into it. You're going to have hell to pay if you drill into that asphalt parking lot. They told me this to make sure to tell everyone.
I mean,
So,
maintaining asphalt in the Northeast with the snow and the freeze and the thaw, that's a chore.
for sure. I mean, you guys would appreciate if you just paved your driveway and someone came and put a concrete drill into it, you wouldn't be too happy. So they want to make sure that, yeah, there's nobody drilling into it, but those pit spaces, go ahead and register for them. There's plenty of general parking on the other side of the lot too. It's not too far away from the pit space, but you won't be able to leave your things set up overnight. Yeah, it's just kind of formality. The pit spaces will be closer, but there's plenty of parking for everybody over there. Then they said that in the lowest lot of the Mountain Creek parking lot, there's camping available. It's just a gravel parking lot. There's absolutely no amenities, and they're not charging anything for it. But they normally don't allow that. But since it's a national race, they're just gonna turn their head the other way. And they said it's in the tech guide, so it's fine that people are parking down there. for overnight camping. It just needs to be in the lowest parking lot, not up in the main parking where people are going to be parking for the day.
Nice. Yep. Ended up, I've done some gravel parking lot camping in my day. Let's just say that it can be handy in a pinch.
Yeah, I've slept in that parking lot before. And I mean, it's tough at a lot of the races. It's different at every one. I know people would love to just rock up and camp in their camper like it's a GNCC, but working with these ski resorts, there's different rules at each one. There's different security, and mainly on their side, it's like permitting too. Like at Rock Creek, we're not permitted to let people camp there, so we'd love to,
Mhm.
but we just can't. So I appreciate it's different at every race, but it's awesome that this one is allowing it, and let's take advantage of it. I mean, that makes the drive a little more bearable. If you don't want to get a hotel, like you have the option to camp right there on site. So it's really nice of them for allowing that at this event.
For sure. Or if you're like me driving up last year with the Hazleys, if you drive all night and then get there at 4:30 a.m., you can just kind of pull to the gravel parking lot, shut your eyes for a few hours before track walk.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the schedule for the weekend because it is different than our typical downhill southeast schedule where we've kind of optimized our schedule to do the video production for the pro race replay show. So we'll be following the traditional national schedule, which will basically be like what we saw at Windrock, correct?
Sure, it's a bit of a hybrid. I worked with them to modify our downhill southeast schedule to fit what their lift times were and what the national schedule was. So every day we're going to start at 9. There's just no way that they can open before 9 a.m. So bumps everything back an hour, which I don't think many people are going to complain about, unless except for the drive home on Sunday. So 9 a.m. practice is nice. Friday's going to be exactly the same as a normal downhill southeast. Note that the A and B are split differently at this race. A is pro and Cat 1 juniors only, and B is all Cat 1s, and then C is all Cat 2 3s. So that's different than our normal downhill southeast. Be aware that the split A, B, and C is different. But that doesn't affect things on Friday because the morning is A and B combined, which is the pros and all the Cat 1s, or the first half of the day. And then the second half of the day will be all the Cat 2 3s. And it just, instead of being from 8 to 5, it is 9 to 6. So no real difference there. Then Saturday, the things are just a little different order. Seating's at the end of the day instead of the middle. Um, the order of practices are different than they normally are. Please take a note of that. And then seating is for all Cat 1s, and the seating order will be in reverse order. So from the slowest to fastest, just like in the race, based on 1, UCI points, 2, USA Cycling points, and then after that, downhill southeast standings. So that's the precedent that we were given. And then on race day, instead of the pros going first, so we could get that video out quicker, it being a UCI race, they want to have the big show at the end. There's going to be more people spectating, so it's nice in person to have the fastest guys coming down at the end. So we'll have the pros racing last on Sunday, so it'll be the reverse order from a normal downhill southeast. And then the seating will be in the order that riders seated for the Cat 1s and pros, and then for the Cat 2 3s, that'll be in USA Cycling order, followed by downhill southeast overall. So that'll all be done. Those start lists will be made by USA Cycling. Is the way they wanted it. And yeah, we're going to start the race a little later on Sunday with a 9 a.m. start, and then wanting to give those Cat 2 3s an hour and a half to practice. So we're not going to get off until 12:45, but we're going to do our best to, run this race as efficiently. We're pretty fast with our 30-second gaps. And yeah, hopefully we're out of there not too late in the afternoon. Just appreciate this is a national race, and most national races you go to, they tend to run a little bit slower than a regional race with bigger gaps for the pro categories and probably a little more riders too.
Yeah, it's going to be an action-packed race day for sure. And the star of the show on race day is going to be the track. And the tracks at Mountain Creek, like you said, Nico, one of the main reasons the Downhill Southeast uh, put Mountain Creek on the schedule last year. I mean, they've just been doing high level racing for such a long time. Do you have any insight on to what sections we might see in this year's track?
I do. I was getting some info from George Ryan yesterday. He's in charge of the trail crew at Mountain Creek. He said we're going to race something similar to what we raced last year. There'll be a few new sections, which is always exciting. When we're racing on that side of the mountain at Mountain Creek, the lookers left, there's a bunch of options. There's so many trails there they can link different sections up. So I know it's going to start right there next to the gondola. We'll come down. There was two different options between the Downhill Southeast and the National last year in that first section before the ski slope. So we'll probably change it up, different variation of the two options there, into the 99 Rock Garden, which is pretty
That
tech section.
99. Whew.
I like that section. It's normally pretty hard to get through, chunky, got some big rocks in there, um, and there'll be options for the Cat 2 3s. Like, I'm not sure if we'll have two completely separate tracks, but any sections like that, there will be two lines. So it may split apart and come back together, two or three times during the race. But any of those gnarly sections like 99, I'm sure we'll be using some variation of Asylum, which is a pretty exciting rock garden as well. There'll be options for the Cat 2 3s to avoid those. And not just options, but they'll be mandatory so that it'll feel like two tracks, even though it kind of comes back together and goes apart several times. And yeah, I'm not sure what they'll be running at the bottom. George said something, some new variation. Maybe I heard Frog Ponds coming back, which is a new chute into the last grass ski slope there. So either that or maybe Candyland, where they have a bunch of trails. They finished the past couple years, all the races. It'll hit some variation of that, and then across the grass into the finish on the turf, like it has the past couple years. So looking forward to that track. It's always exciting to see what they cook up. Mountain Creek has no shortage of tech rock sections, which are kind of a staple of the East Coast. So it'll surely produce some good racing.
For sure. And we've got the entire replay show from last year for folks if they want to get a preview of what we saw last year. Because, like you said, we'll see some of those same sections. So that's on our YouTube page. If you want to log in and see that and maybe pick up some line tips from Nico. Yeah, that Asylum Rock Garden, that's one of my favorite sections of the video because, I mean, you can just tell who's committed because the commitment in there, you've got all the speed in the world, but if you want to do anything with that speed, I mean, you got to huck the whole thing, basically.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's like it's all natural, but the
Yeah.
rocks are just angled in the right way that it almost feels like a smooth step down. It's just a big rock slab to rock slab. So if you can pull the trigger on the jump there, definitely. I mean, you're jumping over everything that would give you a hard time. So you just gotta commit to it. But it's a
Yeah.
tough one. It's a big jump for sure.
Yep. If you can pull the trigger, that's the key word. But yeah, when I watch folks like you double that whole thing, it looks so smooth. And then the option, like you can kind of stair step down it, but you're going to go slower. But if you try to even go around it, I mean, that looks harder because you're kind of fighting the rock. You're at a weird camber. So yeah, it's one of those spots that you've just got to put it out of your mind and go straight down the gut.
For sure.
Wow. Well, that's a lot to cover for Mountain Creek, and it's going to be a great race. I do quickly want to take a look at the series points, Nico, to yeah, see who might be on for one here. I'm looking back at the points, and Jack Peterson is on top of the series points after Windrock. I don't mean to sound surprised when I say that. But we've just had so many big names at the races, and he had a really solid finish at Windrock. He was sixth place. He was just behind Richie Rude. I don't know if Jack's going to be up there, but I mean, he certainly put in the work early in the season to earn that top spot in the points.
For sure. And Jack's pretty new to downhill racing. So it's exciting to see him making that progress. I know he only even got a downhill bike for this season. So he's always been a really good rider, and to see him stand on top of the points is pretty cool. I know he had a big crash at Windrock pretty recently, so hopefully he's all good from that and is able to. I know he's planning to race Mountain Creek, so hopefully he's feeling good enough to put in another good result.
Nice. And I know that some of the World Cup guys will likely not be here as it's getting close to their season. I think I heard Austin Dooley mention in the recap or the replay video from the Windrock round, he's not going to be here as he preps for his European campaign. What about Grice Crispy?
Yeah, he's going to be there.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm excited to see him racing. I'm not sure what other guys are, whether Intense Boys are planning to go or not. But from the guys that I know are going, I putting my money on Grice Crispy for this one. Putting a couple of crispy hundreds on him.
When he's second in the overall, he's just a couple points behind Jack Peterson. So it could be a prime opportunity for Crispy to pounce. Asa Vermette sitting in third in the overall after that incredible performance at Windrock, where he just was right up on pace, had that get off, but didn't seem to phase him. Gwynn and Dooley are tied for fourth. David Kahn slipped up into sixth place, and he's been on a downhill bike this year. Mr. Enduro has got a Danny Cycles downhill rig back under him. Is he going to make the trip, or is he hammered down at Rock Creek prepping for nationals?
No, he's planning to do all the races in the series this year. So as we get into the next 3 rounds, I think we'll see some of those World Cup guys. All those World Cup guys will be away in Europe racing. So some of those guys like David, and we'll see if Jack can do. I know he was hoping to get some European racing in as well. But yeah, David might creep up there towards the top of the standings. I know he's eager to take it away. His brother won it last year, and he's looking at that as an opportunity. So he was telling me he just got a new propane downhill bike this week. So he's been racing on borrowed bikes the past 2. I think every race he raced a different bike. He raced his Nomad, which is an enduro bike at TTC. Then he borrowed Stephanie Soul's downhill bike because she was out with a ankle injury for Rock Creek. And then he raced his dad's bike at Windrock. So now he's got his own, and he's looking forward to putting that to use for the rest of the season at Downhill Southeast.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And looking at 2 more riders in the overall, 7th and 8th, we've got some Northeast names. We got Lucas Dodora, who was leading the series coming into Windrock and unfortunately had a wrist injury in practice. He's only 16 years old. He's riding for the Pro Builds team, which has turned out a bunch of top-level riders over the past few years. And I don't know if his wrist is going to be good to race at Mountain Creek, but I'm sure he'll be out and around the pits. And then Dylan Conti is right there in the top 10 as well. And we're coming up, to his turf. So an opportunity for Dylan to get some points too.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Both guys, I'm sure, will be fast at Mountain Creek, headed up their way. I don't think Lucas will be able to race, unfortunately. He had just a hairline fracture in his radius, so it's like just where his arm comes into his wrist there. Luckily, that's probably best case scenario for a wrist break, but it'll be probably 6 weeks until he can really get back to it. So I know he'll be there. He said he's going to be there helping out his team. So we wish him a speedy recovery. He was leading the series going into Windrock, and I know he was ready to battle with Jack Peterson. They were kind of neck and neck. So it would have been exciting to see that. Bummer to see him go out, and we look forward to getting him back soon.
When taking a quick look at pro women, Shell Peugeot moved into first place when she took the win at Windrock, but I don't think the Border Patrol is going to let her back across for Mountain Creek. She is a Canadian citizen, and she's been, soaking up the good vibes at Downhill Southeast. Of course, she finished up her, I don't know if it was a master's. I think it was a master's degree at Brevard. So she's graduated from Brevard College. But she's back up in Canada before her international season. So that kind of leaves the door open for Abby Ronka to take over that top spot. She's in second right now by 6 points. She was our champ last year in this series overall. And she is from, kind of the mid-Atlantic. So I expect big things out of Abby here at Mountain Creek.
Yeah, definitely. Where she's from in PA is even closer to where I was to Mountain Creek. I think she's only an hour away from the bike park, so I'm sure she'll be fast there. I heard Pogo was going to try to make it. That's what she
Oh,
told me
really? Okay.
at Windrock anyway. She may have overstayed her allotted time that she can be in the US, but she's going to try to go to a different border and see if they let her in. So we'll see if she can make it or not.
Yeah, so much to look forward to. Memorial Day weekend for this combined Downhill Southeast and National Series race at Mountain Creek. Before we jump off, Nico, I do have to ask you, how are the preparations coming at Rock Creek for the USA Cycling National Gravity National Championships in July?
Yeah, they're looking good. We got the main things were the enduro courses and the dual slalom track. Our downhill tracks were pretty, I mean, based on what we raced at Downhill Southeast, they could have been raced again at nationals. So we're going to make some small changes to those, but for the most part, the heavy workload was in the dual slalom and enduro, and they're both looking really good. Hayden Gary's been crushing it on the dual slalom course. We had Chris Herndon out, the 2007 dual slalom national champ, to give us some good advice. We haven't built a dual slalom track in a long time, so his help was really valuable. We got a big fuel tank that's about 10 feet in diameter that we're going to use for a spectator crossing underneath the course, which will also make for a cool over feature on the dual slalom. That'll allow people to get over to the downhill and the other side of the dual slalom. It'll be cool for spectators. Enduro stages are coming along. They've been plugging away. It's all on the back side of the mountain. They'll be taking a shuttle up, racing 4 stages on the back, and then 1 down the bike park to finish. So it'll be a good race back there. And I think all the stages being out of the park makes it more enduro, not bike park. And yeah, so far I haven't been able to get over there. I haven't been able to crutch on back, but from what I hear, Max Beaupre and Cameron Mader are both busting ass trying to get those done, as well as David Kahn. They're all enduro racers, so nothing better than guys that have the vision for how to race it to lay the tracks out.
Yeah, and I mean, those 3 guys are kind of like mad scientists. I've been following Max on Instagram and watching some of these concoctions that they're cooking up, and yeah, folks are going to be in for a treat, and really excited to be a part of that event in July.
Yeah, we gotta tame them back a little bit. They can definitely cook up some gnar, that's for sure.
Yeah, is Dr. Dave still on the fence, or is he on board now?
He likes it. He's stoked. So
Good.
we straightened it all out. The courses are looking good.
Awesome, man. Well, I am bummed that I'm not going to be at Mountain Creek in person with new baby Shyla and all the races that we've had so far, and going to national champs for a week, just wasn't able to swing it in my schedule. Although baby Shyla is stoked that she's made it to 2 races already. She's only 2 months old, so that's a pretty good track record for her. But I'll be hanging out at home with Shyla and Caroline, and we'll be logging in to do the commentary for the replay show. So I want to see some crazy fans on this replay video for you guys that are listening out there. We'll be watching for you.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be out there, and we'll have the captain in to do the live announcing for you. He's a dude that's done the race announcing up there a lot, so it'll be looking good.
The captain won't steer you wrong. He is he's the leader of good times.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the race. A lot of info here, but it being a combo with a national, we wanted to just give everybody a rundown of what to expect when they show up. And we're looking forward to getting over the hump of the halfway point in the season, round 407 coming up.
Yeah, thanks everybody for your support of the series. See you in Jersey.